For years, I've asked my students to think about modernist poetry in terms of the mobile, a kinetic art object that embodies much of what modern artists in all media seek to achieve. Sometimes working on my mobile as I lecture, I ask them to consider the mobile both as a single object and an object composed of many component, interrelated parts. While my mobiles aren't as beautiful as Alexander Calder's, the fact that I've made mine allows me to assume the role of modern artist, to demonstrate what it is that modern poems increasingly aspire to accomplish. Modernists are always reminding us across art forms that art objects are made by and of component parts. Poems are made of words, music is made of instruments playing notes, paintings are made of paint. Isadora Duncan, for example, takes off her shoes in part to say that we dance with our feet. Langston Hughes writes about jazz and blues with jazz, using the blues sound for his medium. Gertrude Stein reminds us that words are made out of sounds and can be perceived purely as sounds, just as she emphasizes that words have shapes. Look again at the mobile and notice how the elements keep changing in relation to one another. Notice too how relationships among the elements are changed by changes I make. What if I were to lower this element? Notice how everything shifts according to this motion, this direction that I, the artist, impose. This mobile is a composition in industrial silver and matte green. What happens if I add an apple? Does the apple's existence as an edible, organic object make us realize maybe how many of the items here are kitchen items? Were we not modernists, we might want to treat this apple as very central, to say that it's the ingredient for an apple pie in which the apple holds the center and all these objects serve. Does it matter that the apple is beginning to rot, whereas none of these elements will ever rot, that they endure while the apple withers? What if I add this object, a dollar bill? Now we have more green and the composition begins to tilt toward green. Look at Ezra Pound's two-line poem, In a Station of the Metro. The apparition of these faces in the crowd, petals on a wet black bough. These lines work in very much the same way that this mobile does. Consider the juxtaposition of the dissimilar faces and petals. Something happens in those two images, in those two lines. A sharp, unforgettable impression is wrought, and wrought from the composition. Faces are reduced beautifully to slips of light, the west to Paris, and the east to a Japanese rendering of blossoms on a black branch. The natural and the industrial summon each other. Nothing resolves into anything else. Faces are still faces, petals are still petals, east is east, west is west, boughs, boughs. These are separate images, but they are brought into a totally new relation. The result is that we have in this poem a little mobile of suspended elements changing in relationship to each other. See how I've made this mobile of coat hangers? Well, what is the hanger's role in this work of art? It's sort of the same question as whether the title in a station of the metro is part of Ezra Pound's poem. Are the hangers part of the mobile, part of the artistic statement? You might be thinking that all this emphasis on form is a little bit cold or a little too abstract, and that is a complaint that's leveled at modernists. This is a movement rejecting the idea that art is created to please you. Yet, it's more complicated than that. It's not that modern art is really cold. For instance, modern artists are always hanging out in groups together. They're in clubs and they form coteries. They develop lifelong, immensely fruitful friendships with each other. Begin to think about how the primary channel of communication is shifting from one that is between poet and reader, viewer and listener, to one that flows really electrically between artist and between art forms. It's a movement. There's a lot of attitude in this. We see these poets reject home and family and marriage and the bourgeois reader. They don't care about our appreciation, our approval, our acceptance. Success, they don't all expect it. Here we encounter writers of manifestos, those who embrace outsider status, those who love risks and rifts. The modernist poets we'll read comprise a large, heterogeneous subculture of resistance, and they create a template for other resistors to follow. They include bohemians and expats and communists and even some self-declared fascists. They included the liberated and the alienated, those prone to excesses of alcohol and sex, those who stake out positions on the extreme left and the extreme right. Modernists are the original avant-gardists. They, like their art, live on the edge, and they have little commerce with the middle. Instituting change, making it new, is the one value that unifies them. They change everything.